Now, over the last week or so, we've had tons of content here on the channel looking at limited budget beginner road to glory type strategies that we can run, and we've had some pretty good success, and I've really enjoyed making those videos, and I'm really excited to see how the teams will do this weekend. But as some of you guys will know, my primary how to win money on Sorare strategy is an in-season rares, in particular with the Celtic strategy or the Celtic collection in the Challenger competition. The last time we were doing a video looking at this stuff, we had just had our second streak captured. We just got a batch of essence in, and we went out and we started crafting some cards, and we did pretty well. We crafted a Dominik Fitz, a star card, out of a standard draw. So I think I'm going to go for the Austrian one, and we're just going to cross our fingers that it's Dominik Fitz. Oh my god! We then found ourselves in a star room, and we missed out on Celtic hero of the season so far, Benjamin Negren. Oh no! Negren! But since then, Celtic have not had another SO5 match for me to go after the streak on, so we're still sitting on streak 2, ready to go after streak 3. And now coming into this weekend, Celtic are back in domestic action, and I have been scrambling around. I bought a lot of cards on early access on day 1 pricing, so I was paying a lot more for cards, and you really should when the market kind of calms itself down or whatever. But the main reason for that was to go after the early season bonus, super jacked up on steroids, hot streak payouts that Sorare were giving out. Now, IDing players, building lineups, watching the football, hitting the scores, winning the money is a big part of, it's a huge part of what makes Sorare a really fun game and something that we'll enjoy doing here on the channel. But a massive part of the fun, the enjoyment of roster building or strategy construction or whatever is trading in the market. And in the video today, I'm going to show you what I've been up to over the last week to make sure that I'm streak 3 ready with my rare in-season team. And in the process of doing this, we've pulled out an old trick that I've not done in a couple of years. And if you're brand new around here, you've probably not quite got into the trading aspect in the secondary market or whatever. So hopefully there's some food for thought in the video for you in that regard. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And if you are brand new to Sorare and you've not even opened up your account yet, Sorare love the content here at Quinny 3001, and they've gave me a special link. That link in the description of the video and in the pinned comment will get you $150, pounds, euros, wherever your currency is, of market credit to go out and build your roster. That link is exclusive to me here on the channel. It is genuinely the best way to sign up, and by clicking on that link you do support me and all the content here at the channel. So if you do get stuck, if you've got any questions, jump into the comment section. All the beginner tutorial explainer videos are in the description of the video in case that's the sort of thing you're after. The bonus credit you get for signing up is directly linked to your purchases on site, so make sure to read the terms and conditions, of course. And anyone else watching the video, feel free to jump into the comment section and let me know what you've been up to in the market as prices have started to come down to normal or come into affordable reach. Have you been, trading in the market? Have you been buying more? Have you been taking advantage of these market promotions that have been going on? Which streak are you on? How are you feeling coming into the weekend? Let me know. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because these are the teams. This is basically the gallery that we had before, the last week or two kind of panned out. I spent really big on Tierney, Johnson and Hatate to be like my base squad, and then we've went out and bought lots of other kind of squad pieces, some budget guys like Fadinger, Adams, Braga, obviously the Mitov. We also got a Talisca. And just as a small recap for anyone catching this for the first time, the budget that we set out with to build the Celtic rare strategy was £790 that I got from selling super rares from last year. And from there, we then, in the very first game week when we hit the first streak, we crafted a Belgian from the Scottish Premier League, which I was really crossing my fingers was going to be Arnie Engels, but sadly it was Nicholas Raskin. We then sold Nicholas Raskin to buy the Mitov that you see here on screen, and we bought the Talisca with that money as well, who we've not managed to really use yet. So that in itself is a nice little move of, crafting a card that's got a decent value that, maybe we could use, but I'm never going to use because it's a Rangers card, and then selling that into the market and buying in some pieces that can maybe help me within that kind of price point. And so that takes us on to Dominik Fitz, because Dominik Fitz is one of the smash players in the Challenger region, one of the most powerful cards probably in European football for Sorare. The guy takes set pieces, he's a striker, he gets goals, he gets assists, he gets a little bit of everything. This was an absolute marquee card when I pulled it, and I was thinking, brilliant, this is really going to make a big difference to those lineups you just seen, having someone like Dominik Fitz in attack rather than Adam Ida, Claudio Brago or Yang or anyone like that. But the Austrian calendar doesn't always totally marry up that well with a lot of other calendars. They go off for 2 months from December to February. And, I've won Dominik Fitz before. He's a really fun card. And the last time I won him and this time, I'm just nervous that I'm going to miss out on some market value with him, or I maybe have him in the squad and maybe it goes on one of those wee patches where he doesn't get a decisive, doesn't score that well, and maybe then, yeah, we miss a bit of a boat, we miss a bit of a trick or whatever. So this guy was rated at around £300 when I bought him. That was his instant buy was around 310, and the last couple of auctions he had were around that kind of level as well. Benjamin Negren, who I also missed out on, was basically the same value. So the strategy, the thoughts were, first and foremost, let's try and sell Dominik Fitz and buy Benjamin Negren. Benjamin Negren on instant buy was around £340, and neither one of these cards had an auction at the moment. None of them had cards available on the secondary market. So I listed my Dominik Fitz out there for £300. I think it was like £15 below the instant buy, give or take, and I left it up there for a couple of days. And we got almost no interest in it at all whatsoever. But then I noticed a Dominik Fitz auction had came onto the market, and this is normally a great opportunity to try and sell a card in a number of different ways. One of them might be that I can watch that auction, and then as soon as like it's getting close to being finished, I can just list my card below where the auction is, so that if anyone is really desperate for the Fitz or the card, and they're not too high on, oh, I need to get collection bonus, I need to be a first owner on the card, or I've got market credits to use, if that's not really in their makeup, then they can go into the secondary market and buy your card, my card, cheaper than what it is on auction or instant buy. You get a sale, they get a card a bit cheaper, everyone's a winner. Or, depending on how you think the auction is going to go, you might want to actually send it to the bots. So as soon as I seen this auction was live, and it was only a 12-hour auction, so it literally came on in the morning and finished that night, I then took Dominik Fitz and the other guy that we won, Axel Kayombo, and I started sending offers into the bots just to see how much money they would give me back. Now, bearing in mind, the last auction for Dominik Fitz was like £300, and the instant buy was about 310, 315 or something like that. These guys normally take a big premium off the market price because they're trader accounts, you know, so they buy it at a big discount from you. You get instant liquidity. You don't need to wait for the market or anything like that. And then they've got margin to then relist it and make some profit on it. So you know that when you send offers to these guys, you're not going to get the amount it sells for on the market, because that's what they're looking to get. They need to make some money. That's how that system kind of operates. So I sent offers out to the three main ones that I know will come back in good order. We got Basilbot here returning us with a £223 offer, which is maybe like 2/3 of the market value or so, about 66%, 70% or whatever. And it's quite funny how all these come in, because the next one after that was from Santonio. That was about £14 bigger. And then the third one that we got was a little bit bigger by £3 from Pug Trader. Now, none of these offers were particularly appetizing to me. I was hoping to get 270, 280, something like that from the secondary market when I listed it. And when these offers were coming in, I was like, oh man, could it at least be 250, 260? It would be a wee bit more favourable to me. So I sat on that for like an hour, for 2 hours, and I watched the auction that was going on for Dominik Fitz at the time. And one thing that you'll notice with the way auctions work nowadays is you do max bid. You know, for the most part, people don't really mess around with that. So especially if it's a premium card, people like to get on the first bid, and then you're waiting for the second bidder to come along and show up where this person's going to take the price to, and ultimately you get a good idea of where the auction is going to go to. So literally after Dominik Fitz being available on auction for like 2 hours or something like that, his auction price had went to £230 odd. Now, with like 6 or 7, 8 hours left to go, I thought, you know, that's probably going to move a little bit, but it's probably not going to move that much. And then the knock-on effect of that being the latest price on auction to how the bots are going to value it and how the market overall is going to value it is going to come down from where it was previously. So I then decided to accept this this offer from Pug Trader and get the £240 in and 93 pence. Now, as it would happen, this is where the trick kind of comes in, because I've been quite, I've been finger on the pulse. I've been really paying attention to the market, cards that are listed, the auction, where the auction's at, who's bidding on it, when it's got to go, whatever. And I've just decided, let's take the 240 the now, which is lovely. And then as it transpires, that auction would go on to finish for £232, less than what the bot gave me. And then from there onwards, you can see the next two auctions just got a bit cheaper and a bit cheaper. And as you'll see now, he's going for like £80. The reason for that is, as of like 2 or 3 days ago, it has been confirmed that Dominik Fitz is leaving Austria Vienna for €2 million, which is an absolute bargain, to Minnesota in the MLS. So this is a total strategy change situation. He's changing out of the Challenger League. He's going into the MLS League. MLS is about 3/4 of the way through, and generally Europeans that show up mid-season, maybe that you get a bit of utility, maybe they hit the ground running a little bit, but it's basically curtains. Season over for this guy. You'll be looking at him next year in MLS for the most part. So we absolutely want to watch here. We managed to kind of beat the market, beat the bot on selling him, which was lovely, and we managed to get out of him in good time before some sort of transfer thing had developed and totally undermined the card. Imagine, I was so high, I was so happy on winning that Dominik Fitz, and if I was coming into this weekend looking for streak number 3 and he was meant to be my star striker, I would be pulling my hair out right now with an asset that has went from £300 to 80 or whatever in the matter of 2 weeks, rendering me kind of, with my hands tied behind my back, unable to use that asset to then go and reinforce in the gallery. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, this is a bit of an old trick, something that I've done before, but the last time I done this, it was with a super rare with Pavel Trader, and it involved some more direct messages where, like, I was telling Pavel, like, oh, this auction that's on today, that card is going to go for a lot on auction, so I'll sell it to you now before the auction because I need the money for now, so I'm bidding on something else. And Pavel took it off me, and then the auction went below where he didn't talk to me for about a year. But I give a lot of cards to these bots. I do a lot of business with the bots. And like I mentioned before with explaining to you guys the tale of the tape, the lay of the land with them, I give them lots of very good deals. They do very well out of me in the main, and I kind of accept that for the most part because I know I'm going to get them at some points with either a Dominik Fitz move like this, and they can always be quite good for like sniping off the market because they list so many cards and they don't keep up to date with transfer developments and all that sort of thing, and you can really pick their pocket sometimes if they've got something listed, a real world development's happened, and you can get to the market quick enough to snipe it off them. So it's one of those relationships, there's a bit of give and a bit of take, and on this occasion it was my time to take. Now, like I mentioned before, plan A was to go and get a Benjamin Negren out of this. Now, sadly, at the time, his price hasn't really moved. Negren's auctions, he had a few auctions coming out. I had this money kind of, brought into the gallery, which was lovely. And I'm like, now let's go and auction. Let's go and get a Ben Negren on auction. His instant buy was like 350. And as you can see, I sold that Fitz on the 14th of August. This was the next Negren that came out. And I went after all of these auctions here. The next 3 days, you see the 228, 228 and the 259. Now, I did miss out on the 228 one because of the way max bidding went and some ETH movements and whatever. It kind of went against me. So I had to have bidded up to like this 259 mark, which I was really trying to just do a straight Fitz for Negren move. And I was being a little bit stubborn, penny pinching on like £20 here, which... it's still £20. It's not nothing, obviously, but in the grand scheme of the card, the strategy, the potential to go for streak 3 while it's boosted or whatever, it is really, small fries in the grand scheme of things. I maybe should have just pushed the boat out. But as things would happen in that time, Celtic played Falkirk in the Cup, heavily rotated team, and we then played Kairat Almaty in the Champions League, drawn 0-0. We've got a big game off the back of me going for streak 3 in the following midweek. Brendan Rodgers going into the first game did say there'll be lots of rotation. There was, and the rotation in the cup game would be a precursor to the rotation we're going to see this weekend against Livingston, and that means that Ben Negren might not start, and if he doesn't start, he might not actually score that well. So as his price was still kind of holding in a relatively good space, it became more obvious to me that this is actually not the best way for me to spend this money, for me to go after streak 3, 4 and yada yada everything else. So we've got our budget. We need to build a Celtic team that's going to hit streak 3 for us this week to complement the cards I've got already and add in some of the ones that I don't have. So the very first card we've went out and picked up is Austin Trusty. He played in that rotated match. He's been coming off the bench every game. I don't think Tierney's not got 90 minutes in him, and the way it works out, these guys are going to get minutes. I heavily believe Austin Trusty is going to come on to start this game. And he's been going for around the £30 mark or so, give or take. I managed to get him just before this, and we picked him up for £26. Again, looking at the Falkirk game, thinking about the rotations that might come into play and who I expect to play against Livingston, who could have a good match and really go and win the game for us. After Trusty, we then went out and got a Luke McEwen. And Luke McEwen, as we know, is going to be a squad player, a rotation piece. He can score off the bench anyway, that's fine. But this is a guy I didn't want to spend a lot of money on. I think he was like 40 or 50 quid early doors. I managed to pick mine up for £15, just less than that, on auction. Or instant buy, I forget. He's been a little bit cheaper, but for a card like this, that's a great price point. Really happy to pick him up at that. Now, I'm not going to get Negren in, he's too expensive. I've already got Ida, I've already got Shin, I've already got Yang. None of them are particularly great or that reliable. The number one striker, the most reliable guy in the squad to play and hopefully do not too bad, is of course Daizen Maeda, who was going for similar prices to what Ben de Gren was all the way up until very recently. He was on auction and instant buy £200, £250, £300, depending on how far back on the auctions you want to go. And I managed to pick up this Daizen Maeda. Again, I think it was from auction. No, it was from the secondary market actually, for £114.75, which I thought is kind of the top end of where I want to spend on Daizen. I would have loved to have got an auction here. This was me here 4 days ago, but I would have loved to have got this auction at 90. But really, in the grand scheme of things, I've got right in amongst like a good price point. And in season, Daizen Maeda for £100 at any time in the season for me, I think is a good get. Just with the gallery I've got, the collection I've got, and whatever. And as long as he's going to play and he doesn't transfer, there is a tiny little bit of fear around that with Celtic fans maybe just becoming a bit paranoid or whatever. I'm really hopeful that's not the case, but he does have a bit of that going on, so we do need to think about that. But £114.75 for him. So we've now got a new defender, a new mid, and a new forward. And we still had a good bit of change left. Now, like I mentioned to you earlier in the video, when we crafted Nicholas Raskin, I was really hoping it was an Arnie Engels. Raskin was actually more expensive than Engels, which made it actually better for the gallery that we could sell that card, bring in Mitov and Talisca like we did. So Engels is a card I think rotates in for this weekend, takes set pieces when he plays, and off the bench this season, I know the scores don't suggest it, but he's been pretty nippy. He's looked like he's getting into a good bit of form, and I expect him to have a real point to prove, similar to McKeown at the weekend. And I managed to pick this up on auction for £52. Now, I was really kind of raging with myself because he did have an instant buy available for £45, like you can see here. And then not only that one, but another instant buy went for 45, and then it went up to 58. And then before the auction closed, his instant buy price had moved to 96. And I was like, I want Arnie Engels for £40. We paid £50, and that's kind of the top end of the range for me. He might come in to be a main man this season, so that could look like a very good price very quickly. But for where he sits right now, that £45 instant buy would have been beautiful. And I hesitated on it, I blinked on it, I got Trusty, I got McKeown, I then looked at Engels. I almost did all three of these in the one swoop. But I then thought, Engels, no one's going to be high for him. I'll wait for an auction to come out and I'll get an auction below that instant buy. And sadly, it's not really the way it worked out. I should have just bought the instant buy and just been done with it. So we spent a little bit more on the Engels. But now we still had a little bit of change left. And can you believe we've managed to pick up an in-season Jota as well? Now, Jota is injured. We don't expect him back anytime soon. But really, how much lower than I got him on £30 instant buy? And I'll explain why I instant bought him right now at that price rather than waiting on an auction or buying him on the secondary market or whatever. But £30 for an in-season guy like Jota who's injured, it probably doesn't really get too much cheaper in the grand scheme of things. But for selling Dominik Fitz, I've now brought in 5 in-season Celtic cards. 4 of them I can use right away. And that 5th one, the Jota card, takes us to 520 collection point score, which now means every one of these cards is on a 4% kicker. I was tempted whether to do that with Jota or buy someone cheap like Josh Clark, who's only a £5. I was tempted to buy somebody like Simpson Pussy, maybe even Sinisalo, maybe a Bernardo or a Johnny Kenny could have come into it. But really, £30 was left in the budget. As you'll see from the Dominik Fitz money, it fits in absolutely perfectly. And I thought, Jota's one of these guys you just need to buy and then forget about it until he comes back fit. And then, he's maybe got some XP on his side and, it'll maybe work out quite well. So really buzzing with how we've managed to, hustle that Dominik Fitz out and bring in a whole new Celtic squad to help us go and field our team with. Now, in that time, before we go to the teams and see how we're set up for the streaks, I have also bought some more cards, aside from the strategy, just from what I normally do, trying to jump on transfer speculation and all the rest of it. And there's been a lot of Celtic stuff, to be honest with you. Part of the reason I missed out on the Negren auction, I was penny pinching on the price and whatever, is I got Ismaila Soro for £1 because he's training with Falkirk, so why not? Just adds into the collection. But I also got an in-season Lennon Miller because with him moving to Udinese, that in-season Motherwell card will play with the Celtic stuff still. So that's actually a nice little piece there. I bought Saganikov for £3. I couldn't believe it. Arnaud Martinez, £3 the same. But then Celtic started to get more transfer links and rumours coming back. I recently sold Balikwisha Classic, but I went and bought him back in because it feels like that move might happen. I got a Stengs in-season for £21 on the real big fingers crossed that the Celtic move happens. And I got a Classic Vardy for £6 as well, just in case the Celtic move would happen. Saganikov started off really well, but the other guys are just like Celtic like transfer hedges. Like if the move happens, I've got an in-season Stengs that'll be OP as a midfielder card. The Balikwisha and the Vardy are just little, along with Jacob Bream, who I've got back here somewhere as a classic. Just if they move to Celtic, I've got a card, I'll be able to use them in some fashion from the get-go, and then we'll have that battle of getting an in-season one later on to deal with. Now, Alistair Johnson picked up a pretty meaty injury in that cup game against Falkirk, so I already knew that backup player of Anthony Ralston that I already bought was going to come in handy for this game week. And with Kieran Tierney probably going to get wrapped up in cotton wool, this is how I've kind of set the teams out for the weekend. So the main one, the first team here, is all the guys that Dominik Fitz paid for. Now, I can't lie, coming close to the deadline, I'm a little bit nervous on Dyson, but really Celtic are in a bad place right now when it comes to strikers. There is no rest for the wicked. I think Dyson starts this game and will be subbed off later. So that's the game we're playing with him. I could use Braga or Yang. I think Yang is nailed on to play. I just don't know how well he'll do. Will he start or whatever? I don't know. But I've just said sod it. We're going to go with Captain McCowan and we're going to play the Fitz squad that we won, and that's going to go into D1. That's going to go into the best team that we've got available. The second team that we've got, we're playing Fadinger versus Braga. I don't really care that they're playing against each other. If they can both rock in about 60, I'll be quite happy with that. We've got Talisca being rotated in for Fenerbahce against a kind of bottom of the table team, with then Captain Ralston. Now, as I'm even doing the video right now, I'm pretty certain Trusty's going to play this game. But Ralston's maybe just even safer. So I don't know. I might swap them around before the deadline. But I think this is a good little kind of punchy team that if somehow something goes wrong with the first team, maybe Dyson doesn't score that well or something, this has enough of the minerals in it. Good Kasper Schmeichel plays as well in both of these teams that one of them can hit the score that we need, 440 points to get us onto streak 3. And like I've already mentioned, a big part of this strategy was accepting we're paying more for these cards to get into the early season bonuses on the streak. So it's very important for the ROI, for the value and all the rest of it that we've got on the cards here on the strategy, £790, that we capture as much of this as possible. So I think this is a good kind of second string, a good kind of hedge play here. And in the third team, I can't see Tierney starting. I can't see Hatate starting, but Rodgers might play them. They are like main players. It is like dire straits in a way for Celtic where we need to score goals. We're really ahead of Rangers in the league already, and if we drop points against Livy, it could just be a real pain in the backside. So you never know with Brendan really what he's going to do in that regard. He's very much a best 11 manager kind of guy where he'll play the best team every individual match, but coming into this game he did allude to the fact that the rotation in the cup would be seen and felt in the Livingston game. Those players had to get ready for Livingston was the kind of word there. So I'm pretty confident with how we've laid everything out here. And between these three teams, I only need one of them to do the damage, to do the business. And yeah, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to stick with Trusty in this. I'm super tempted to maybe swap with Ralston just to make myself extra safe, because getting the £200 is really important, of course, but it's all about keeping on the streak for next week, when then we'll be hunting down 460 points for $800. At that point, we are then sitting really good for the strategy, of course, because by that point we'll have picked up just over $1,000 if we can do it this week and next week. But then that would set us up for the 5th streak, which would be, job done, mission accomplished. We're high-fiving, we're winning Sorare 26 with only 5 game weeks in, and we're living our best life in that regard. So fingers crossed for this. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be a really... And then again, once we win these streaks, we can get Negren in later. We can maybe get a Schmeichel in season in later. I've got the Mitov in season that's not playing this week. Aberdeen don't have a match. So there is a bit more quality in the strategy here that we're not even really feeling this game week. We'll see it more for game week 5, I guess it will be. But no, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to swap Trusty for Ralston, because again, I'm just giving myself that fear with Brendan Rodgers that maybe just sticks with Tierney at left back, which means then maybe Trusty starts, maybe he doesn't. So I'll just go with Ralston, just play it super safe with that. And then we've got Trusty in this team here, which I'm happy with. Can't help myself. Just got to be extra super safe. The Dyson, again, the very first time I did draft this, I had Yang up front because I just thought he is the safest. He's definitely going to play because of the rotations that we need to do. But Dyson, really, you can't drop him at this point. We need goals so badly. So yeah, that'll be us locked and loaded. Wish me luck for streak number 3. Let me know how you think I did with the Dominik Fitz. Did I do well by building a whole new squad out of selling that card? And on top of the Raskin, like I say, we've got a really nice, I would say really nice Celtic collection here for in-season. That's still, the way I kind of factor this in with winning the Raskin, with winning the Fitz, This strategy still only costs £790, but now we've got, when we started the strategy, we'd done it to Fadinger point. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 12 cards in that strategy. Now, I'm not including Inamura and Shin because I kind of done them separately. So we've went from having 12 cards at that price point now to having 21 cards at that price point. We might want to add on Lennon Miller because I did pay for that, so maybe it's a flat £800 strategy now. But in essence, we've basically doubled the amount of cards that we've got available to us thanks to the essence we've won, the card rewards, etc. And I think that's the best way to grow your gallery is organically. Buy a good team, start winning stuff, add cards into your roster without spending any more on them where possible, and then it just brings down like your dollar cost average of the strategy, of the cards, of the team, of the squad, however you want to think of it. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, feelings, takeaways, what you've been up to, what you're set up for this weekend in the comment section of the video. On screen are now some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Have a great weekend. Good luck with the lineups. Stay out of trouble. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.